Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm so excited to be here and connecting with all of you today. Last night, actually, a couple of us, and Jeremy and I both were at a community plate dinner, which had some great food and stories, so that was a really nice way to connect over a meal as well. So I encourage you all to check out Community Plate. I'm going to move quickly through my comments because we have so many incredible guests here to share the mic with me. But the first of those is recorded here, and I would like to lead into that by acknowledging that we are on indigenous lands. The land we call Maine hosted ancestral fishing, hunting, and agricultural grounds, and the communities of the Wabanaki Nations for thousands of years. And for that reason, we're honored to have tribal ambassador of the Penobscot Nation and president of the board of directors for the Wabanaki Alliance, Ambassador Molly and Bryant.
Good morning. My name is Molly Ann Bryant, and I'm the Penobscot Nation Tribal Ambassador, and I also get to serve as the president of the board of directors for the Wabanaki Alliance. I want to thank GrowSmart for letting me do this welcome introduction for a second time now, and I also want to thank you for your involvement in our Wabanaki Alliance Coalition and your dedication to helping us out on so many of our advocacy projects and legislation and other things we have going on. So I was looking over some of the things that you all will be discussing in your time together, and I really like the idea of promoting the power of connection. And I think in Wabanaki leadership, that's really at the center of what we do in our cultural values, is empowering one another, nourishing our relationships, and really focusing on the sacred bonds of community. And that can look like a family, that can look like a network of people, that can look like a coalition, that can look like so many things. But when you find shared humanity, no matter where you come from, that's where you can make so much progress together. And we have found that in the Wabanaki Alliance. And something, special that I get to share with you all is a little bit of the work that we're doing on question 6 on the statewide referendum in November. So November 7th, we will be looking to vote on a question that has to do with adding language into printed copies of the Constitution of Maine that deal with treaty obligations to tribes. And this is really important to us. It's really important to a lot of our friends and neighbors and allies. So when you see the question and it looks sort of broad and vague and it's about printing the Constitution, which is something maybe not a lot of Mainers are thinking about, just know that it is significant to us, and it really honors the legacy of our ancestors, and it really restores all of our history as Mainers. And even though these sections have been in effect and remain in the Constitution, they've been taken out of the actual copies that folks can read. So we are looking to put those back in, and thinking about the themes we've already talked about here, that, connection and humanity and community. A huge part of that is truth-telling. And we see question 6 and this restoration of history as a really powerful tool for truth-telling. So I invite you to learn more about our work. I welcome you to this summit, and I wish you well. Kachiwaliwini. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then we have a local welcome from the city of Waterville. Waterville City Manager Brian Cainrath is here to say a few words as well. Thank you. I was blinded.
Well, good morning and thank you. On behalf of the city, we want to welcome you here to our beautiful downtown and our historic Opera House. We're thrilled that GrowSmart Maine chose Waterville for your 2023 summit, and we're thrilled to have you here in our city. So if you haven't been here recently, In the last 5 years or so, you may have noticed a few changes. We have had an incredible amount of investment move into our downtown, from the building next door, the Arts Center, to the Green Block Studios, to the Lockwood Hotel. We've had an incredible amount of investment, as well as shops and restaurants up and down Main Street. So it's been an incredible last few years, as well as the build grant we also had, which was incredible. So please take some time to get out and visit our shops and restaurants. Today, spend some money in our downtown. It's an incredible place. And, I've been here for just about 2 months now, so a relatively short tenure. And I've gotten out as much as possible and spoke to so many different people in so many different areas, from the offices of our college presidents all the way down to the soup kitchen and the sewer district and everything in between. And what I can tell you about this place, because people are sort of asking now, what are your impressions of Waterville? What are your impressions of the city and its future? And I will tell you the most common theme that I have picked up on, that I've heard from everyone, is the tremendous sense of optimism that has taken hold in this place. And I think it's real, I think it's infectious, and I think it's powerful. And I think it's going to continue to drive us into our future. There's a real sense that Waterville has turned the corner, we are on the move, and our future is really bright. So, and that's been an incredible thing to hear over these past couple of months. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here in Waterville today. Get out downtown, come back and visit us. Visit us soon, visit us often, because I think we're just getting started here. So thank you very much. Have a great summit today, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much. All right. Apologies. Get ready with my clicker. Today's agenda, you have this in your programs if you grab those, so you can refer to it at any time. But I'm going to say a few more things. We've got a few more exciting things to touch on and people to come up for, and then we'll get into our keynotes. So my comments in the written program really talk a lot about the importance of connections, and that is how my brain works. I see everything as the connections and how things come together. So I've talked enough about that. So today I'm going to focus a little bit more on GrowSmart Maine and some of the things that are happening for the organization and for the state of Maine. When I joined the board 8 years ago now, I was inspired by the organization's mission and the vision, really to build thriving communities and protect Maine's quality of place. Over recent years, lost my place. I've been really proud to see us broaden our understanding of what thriving communities and quality of place means to all Mainers. We each care about how Maine communities grow, but we all come with different experience to that. One great example of this that I'm incredibly excited about is our new cohort of prospective board members. You'll meet them later today, or you can read about them in the nominations ballot. By changing our outreach process this year to an equitable open call for nominations, GrowSmart Maine will now better represent the diverse geographic and cultural demographics and the range of experiences across this beautiful place that we call Maine. So keep an eye out for those folks. And then GrowSmart Maine is making tremendous strides and engaging in the opportunity of this moment in time, where we see the pressures and challenges that GrowSmart Maine has focused on for a long time now and work and offer some solutions to are now top of mind for many with growth pressures that we haven't experienced in recent years. From the northern woods and working lands to central cities and cities in Renaissance like Waterville, to bustling southern towns, coastal villages, we're connecting with people and with citizens on key issues. GrowSmart recognizes that we can't go into each community and drive change, so we're growing programs now that support people building capacity within their own communities. You'll hear a little bit more about that soon. We listen, we gather experts and experienced voices. We host workshops and webinars and today's summit on timely topics. And we help provide resources to help you and your neighbors manage growth in a way that best suits your community. We're increasing our capacity to support towns and cities in responsible development, protecting open spaces while bringing vibrancy to town centers. We still stay grounded in and aligned with the smart growth principles, but within that, we expanded our focus on how we think about this land use regulation, transportation, climate action, and housing choices to include more awareness of farms and food systems and participation in broadband access efforts, and also with some budding alliances in the public health and in arts and culture. And because all of these, when they're connected, is what makes culture, what builds culture, and what makes our communities whole, healthy, and resilient. So one of those connections and partnerships that really empowers this work that and is at the forefront is GrowSmart Maine's new alliance with American Farmland Trust. We have a program called Planning for Ag. American Farmland Trust 2022 report, Farms Under Threat 2040, Choosing an Abundant Future, found that the only way that they could reach their goals was if there was also a great effort happening on the flip side of that coin to farmland protection, and that was responsible land use and development as outlined by smart growth principles. So this is one of the summaries from that report, and so how explicitly they recognize the value of what we do to the value of what they're trying to do. One caveat of this great Planning for Ag partnership was the need to match the funding as a small nonprofit in Maine. So our talented and dedicated GrowSmart Maine team, led by Nancy Smith, our CEO, supported by Harold and Hildy and a number of other folks who helped, worked on our ambitious first attempt at federal grant funding. And to tell us more about that, I would like to invite Nancy and our ex officio board member, Rhiannon Hampson, who is also the USDA Rural Development Maine State Director, up here to tell you a little bit about it. Yay. I will.
Nancy sat way in the back so she can have a very dramatic walk up. I'm going to let you stand here and talk about it first. And Harold?
Chelsea with American Farmland Trust, are you here yet?
Oh, yes, she is.
There she is. Great.
Here, let me scooch over.
They're upstairs, so I'm just lurking over here.
Yeah, lurk away. You are going to be.
I will, but do you want to talk a little bit about it first before I give you the big check?
All I'm going to say is there's a big check coming. And we have kept a secret for about a month now, but today we get to announce. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it to you, and then in my comments later I'll talk more. But we are so excited.
We are so excited too. So big check moments are my favorite part. Maybe working 70 hours a week and like driving around the state is my other favorite part, because otherwise I would be so bored just being a dairy and livestock farmer. So one of the things that I loved about this experience is that federal grants are not always the easiest to navigate. And if anyone here has tried to move through that process, you can understand that it takes a lot of like fireman jackets, right, to jump through those flaming hoops. In GrowSmart Maine, the team that worked on this was just fantastically optimistic about the way in which federal funding could work for this exciting partnership. So I come from small town Maine. I come from very rural Maine. I'm a poor kid who grew up scrappy in Washington County, I like to tell everyone. And one of the things that drives me nuts is that federal funding tends to be very prescriptive. The federal government tends to come in and say, we know what you need. This is what you need. We will do this for you. And they don't recognize the creativity and the ingenuity and the dynamic culture that exists in small town rural America, right? We sure need some assistance and we need some help, but we also have all of these fantastic resources on our own that can make those dollars work really well. But that's hard to do. sometimes with federal funds. We and the government are tasked with stewarding public tax dollars, and that is no small thing. And we can't be very flexible. That is why we rely on these fantastic partnerships. Because what we can do is we can take $304,000 in our Rural Community Development Initiative, and we can give it to GrowSmart Maine, and they can go in and have community members in each one of these places say to them what they need, say to GrowSmart what kind of help they want to leverage the kind of community that they want to stay in. Each one of us came here, came back here, or stayed here for a reason. And those reasons are as valuable as any other, space in America, right? Creating their identity. So through these partnerships with American Farmland Trust and GrowSmart Maine, rural development, USDA, the federal government, we actually get to be our highest and best selves. So congratulations to their team, to the support that they had, and to each one of the communities that they reached into to find an even further level of partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. So is this the big check?
This is the big check. This is the big check.
Yay.
Right here. Very official.
Awesome.
I signed it. It's official.
That's going on the wall. So we will do a photo as well. American Farmland Trust is on the stage with us because they are our partner in planning for agriculture. And the USDA grant requires a 1-to-1 match. That has been a barrier for GrowSmart for the 13 years I've been at the lead. But the partnership we've had, we just completed our first year with American Farmland Trust, allowed that match. The $304,000 is over the course of 3 years with American Farmland Trust matching it each of those years. When I speak at 1 o'clock as part of the business meeting, I'll go into more details, but grab the annual report. It's the first time in the 13 years I've been with GrowSmart, our annual report is 8 pages long because we have that much to tell you. And this is the Building Community Strength Program, the list of the 10 communities that we'll be working with. And I think 6 different partners, from independent planning businesses to the rural planning organizations to help make this happen. Our goal is at the end of this 3-year program, the capacity within the communities is stronger than it was before, and it'll continue, and those connections will continue afterwards. And I think that was a lot of the power of the proposal we had, and it is replicable throughout Maine and across the country. So our thanks to American Farmland Trust. Chelsea Gazzillo has been our partner in advocacy, and American Farmland Trust broadly in this community work, and to USDA, to Rhiannon. And we are Maine State Rural Development Council through USDA Rural Development. And you're able to serve on our board in an ex officio role, and the pieces are coming together. I was telling David Webster earlier, I feel like we are an overnight sensation that has been at least 10 years in the works, and we're here. So glad to share it all with you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything to add?
All right. So we'll exit.
Yes, we'll exit, and we'll do a photo with AJ afterwards.
All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
let AJ take our photos.
We'll take photos of
Thank you.
So I'm going to try this. I was just at a conference, and they're saying, "Can I get a woo woo?" Because it felt really good as an alternative to clapping sometimes. So thank you, and it's great to share that super good news with you all. And you can see we're feeling also super optimistic, along with our host city here, for all the potential ahead, and excited what we're going to accomplish together. We will continue, as you hear, we've listening to Maine citizens and about what matters in their communities, and working on creative solutions, building local capacity, and for responsible growth and management. And we ask that you work with us to be part of a unifying force that transcends divisions and brings people together for the future of Maine and Maine's communities, in short, connecting people for stronger communities. I'd like to thank some of the folks who have made today possible, our sponsors. And am I clicking through these, or are they going to play? Nature Conservancy, Kennebec Savings Bank.
The very ecosystems most threatened by climate change offer our most powerful solutions for addressing it. Join us as we reconnect forests to rivers to the sea.
AARP.
The jobs we do, we don't do them for recognition.
Our work is about our customers.
The people who need us most for critical services.
When a storm hits and the lights need to get back on.
When a new Maine neighborhood needs safe, reliable electricity.
But when recognition comes,
We're grateful for it.
And we are very proud to be one of the best places to work in Maine.
CMP. Oh, those are our primary sponsors. We have more sponsors. Additionally, we'll share in just a moment, but I wanted to stop and thank all of you for attending, for your partnership and your support. As we move through into the program today, we ask you all to be as present as you are able, make the most of the day, build rich connections with each other, share your unique experiences, be open to the views of others, honor each other's uniqueness, appreciate and value each other's opinions. And with that, I would like to invite Harold Bredesen. He is GrowSmart Maine's Thought Leadership Program Director, up to segue into our program for this morning. Good.
Let's see. Thank you, Becca. For the introduction, I'll have the pleasure today to introduce the keynote speakers, Jane Lafleur and Dr. Jeremy Nobel. Will you kindly to the podium?
Let's get a bell like the crowd.
Dr. Nobel is the founder and president of the Foundation for Art and Healing, whose signature initiative is Project UnLonely. It addresses the personal and public health challenges of loneliness and social isolation. His credentials and accolades are too numerous to list now, but you can also read about those in the program. But I do want to mention his book, Project UnLonely, Healing Our Crisis of Disconnection. It was just released beginning of October. I managed to get through most of it, and it's available to all participants today, so I highly recommend you pick up a copy. It is not only an excellent analysis of loneliness and its impact on public health, which, as the UN Surgeon General recently pointed out, is akin to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I think it's like a kind of powerful idea. But the book is also a touching personal narrative, and also actually very practical. It's really a practical guide on how to address the loneliness epidemic, both through our work, in our communities, and also, of course, in our own lives. So I highly recommend you pick up a copy. Jane Lafleur. She's the principal of Jane Lafleur Consultants. She's the founder of the Community Institute. She's a community heart and soul coach, working with small cities and towns across the US. As for Dr. Nobel, in the interest of time, I'm not going to list all of her numerous accomplishments. But I do want to say that she's not only one of the most respected planners in the planning community here in Maine, but perhaps even more importantly, she's also one of the most highly thought of planners among the non-planning community. Her work on planning as a community building process has empowered people and communities across Maine. She reminds us that when we talk about creating places for connecting people, it is just as much about the people doing the creating as it is about the places they create. And I think with that, I would like to invite Dr. Nobel to the lectern, and I would also like to ask the audience to please hold their questions until both the keynotes are concluded, and we'll do a Q&A after that. So please, Dr. Nobel.
Thanks, Harold. And, it's a real pleasure to be with you all this morning. And when we were going through the planning for this, Nancy said, well, here's how we like the keynotes to work. We'd like to have somebody come, provide a national perspective, and then we'll focus in on Maine. She was talking to me from my home. I live in Boston, but what I don't think she fully recognized is I actually have a little bit of a footprint here in Maine. Now, how did that happen? So I am a public health practitioner, primary care physician, but I've always been interested in the bigger community aspects of public health, and a big one of those was nutrition. And so about 15 years ago, I started working with Hannaford to make it easy when you go in the grocery store to find the foods that are most nutritious for you and your family. So that evolved into a program some of you may have heard called Guiding Stars. So we spent a lot of time working on Guiding Stars, and so I'd have to go to Scarborough. Well, I fell in love with Maine and all these trips, and I said, well, I'm going to get a place here. And they said, well, everyone says that, but they don't actually do it. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. And so I placed a little side wager on that. And so I'm happy to say that about 10 years ago, I was very fortunate to get a little cottage on the banks of the New Meadows River in West Bath, Maine. Now, this was a wonderful getaway when I was doing my work in public health, and I do public health programs around the country and around the world to be able to get up to the New Meadows River. But during the pandemic, which is when this book was written, by the way, which is its own paradox, to be writing a book on connection while the world's disconnected, I could not have done that without my place on the New Meadows River. So I have a great sense of connection and a sense of debt to the Pine Tree State. So I thought I would start with that. I also want to tell you that we're going to have a fun time over the next 30 minutes together. I do have what I think are some important ideas to share with all of you about loneliness, disconnection, its personal and societal challenges that are associated with it, and what we can do about it. But we're also going to have a good time. And as I think Rebecca said, we are here to be connected with each other. So we're going to explore some of that. So when you checked in at the registration desk, they said, oh, take a book, but they also said, take one of these sticky pads. And you said, oh, you're probably thinking, why do I need something to write on? Well, I won't reveal that yet, but you will need something to write on. So we do have, I think Nancy and other people have backup sticky pads for people who may have ignored that advice. So if you need something to write on, and the sticky pads are key, you'll know why later, just raise your hand and we'll walk those around to you. Okay, great. So that'll take a while, but that'll run in the background. Okay, let's get started. Connecting places or creating places for connecting people. We're going to start by sharing a little about who is this guy really, right? So, you get the official bio, but I'll say during the pandemic, I started getting up way too early, and I still do. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I am a lifetime worrier. My mother, there were 3 kids in my family, and my mother said, I'm the youngest, said I was a worrier from the time I was 2 years old. I'm sometimes lonely, and I love coffee and bike riding, much of it in the Brunswick and Bath area with Tom Rumpf, who's here. Just a complete accent, Tom Rumpf, and many folks from GrowSmart Maine know Tom. So we're going to start with some questions. This is audience participation. It's not a big reveal. Show of hands. In the last year, has someone been often or very lonely? Show of hands. Okay. Not surprisingly, it's about 100%. Okay. Next question. In the last year, has anyone said to you out loud, I feel lonely? Okay, so that's about half as much. And I'll just point that out because one of the things I think we should be talking about is if we all know people who are very lonely, why are only half of the people talking about it? And we'll circle back on why talking about being lonely is an important step, not just for the lonely individual, but for our communities to understand it's something you can talk about. And the last question, do you think loneliness is more of an issue now than before March 2020, which is when the pandemic was declared a worldwide crisis? So about half of you. I think it is, for a number of reasons. We'll get into it. So Harold mentioned this remarkable report that came out from the Surgeon General's office, Dr. Vivek Murthy, in May. Now, I've been interested in loneliness and disconnection for about a decade. Others have been too. You know, in the beginning, working on loneliness was a very lonely experience. Fortunately, we have a lot of company now. This is the famous soundbite that Harold also referenced, that loneliness won't just make you miserable, it will kill you. It can have the lethality of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. A lot of this work was done by a really remarkable social psychologist, Julianne Holt-Lunstead. This is a little bit of a busy slide, so I'll explain it. The length of the bar is bad. Longer bad, higher the risk of dying earlier than you otherwise would. And the red bar is the increased risk of dying prematurely if you lack social connections. And then what I think is very illustrative in this is these other risks. Smoking 15 cigarettes, drinking 6 alcoholic drinks a day, physical inactivity, obesity, and air pollution. We've been focusing on these in public health for decades, but no one was looking at loneliness. We just didn't think it was important enough. Now, I think part of that is social stigma, frankly. It's obviously not in the data if you look for it. So how does social connection influence health? People say, well, I get it, loneliness makes you feel bad, but what's going on? Why is it like smoking 15 cigarettes a day? I won't go through all of this. You could write a whole book on this kind of stuff. In fact, I did. You folks have it. But social connection triggers a set of processes. So most of you, if you're into design, you know about systems. So biology is a complex, interlocking system. And it turns out that when you're lonely, it makes your brains go crazy. Increases inflammation, increases the stress hormone cortisol, and it changes gene expression, increases inflammation, and so on. So your brains start getting activated with loneliness, but it also changes how you make sense of the world, right? So we heard the word optimism earlier today. It biases you against optimism, just to say it simply. And it also biases you against other mood states that actually allow you to be more effective in connecting, not just with other people and yourself. So psychology changes. But then ultimately, one of the things that's really important is it changes your behavior. So people stop acting in pro-social ways. They stop connecting, and the risk is you start spiraling into becoming lonelier and lonelier. I think for those who raise their hands that they know someone who's very lonely, you've probably noticed in that person a change in behavior where they're a little reluctant. Not only are they lonely, they're reluctant to take the risk of connecting with other people. If you've got a chronic illness, it reduces your medication adherence, right? So you're not taking good care of yourself, your engagement with the healthcare system. And so you have a whole cascade of interlocking systems issues that erode health. So if that's the problem, how do we shape social connection? So one of the challenges in looking at loneliness, people think, okay, this is a deeply personal issue, and it is, but it's also a broad societal issue at the same time. So what I'm going to try to build out in the slide is just to show the relationships between that. So individuals have a variety of factors that can influence their ability to be connected. Chronic illness, sensory deprivation, like if you're an older adult or even not an older adult and you've got a hearing deficit, it's harder to connect. And you can go through these various kind of personal factors, individual factors we know are associated with loneliness. Now, relationship structure also impacts loneliness, right? So do you live alone or do you live with people? And how is it? How is that experience? It's not just structural, right? Are there people in your house along with you, but is there a positive sense of connection, empathy, and so on? So these are the kind of things people often think about loneliness, individuals and relationships. I think what's very, very relevant to this group are the community factors that can reinforce opportunities to connect with each other. And one of the reasons I was so delighted to be invited to come speak today is it kind of was a catalyst for me doing more research into this really important area, which is what GrowSmart Maine is really all about. So how do you begin to understand the relationships between outdoor space, housing, schools, workplace, local government? I can go through the list. And the interdependency of the built environment and the designed environment to increase the likelihood that we will connect with each other and change, the fourth thing, society, how we think about each other. Do we have a shared sense of optimism that we're going to make it through the challenges we know we're all facing? A very divisive world, uncertainty about climate, uncertainty about political issues. I don't know anyone who's in good shape facing all that on their own. So how do we build an environment that then enhances the likelihood that society will address it? So one of the things I'm going to share with you is that although there's great public health and medical issues to be concerned about with loneliness, is it's not an illness. It's not a disease. It causes those diseases. I've talked about some of them already, but it's really a biologic signal. Just like thirst is a signal that you need hydration, loneliness is a signal that you need human connection. So if you're feeling lonely, and by the way, I think it is one of the most human of feelings. We're all a little bit lonely from time to time. We have twinges of loneliness. Those occasional twinges of loneliness are not the problem. That's not the 15 cigarettes a day. It's when unattended to, they spiral into greater levels of loneliness. So it erodes self-esteem, self-confidence, optimism. And so you start backing away from the exact social scenarios that could actually connect you. So how do you get started early when you feel lonely so you don't have those cycles? So if loneliness is a signal that we need human connection, how do you achieve that? How do you move from being lonely to being connected? And there are several ways we could do that. Volunteering often brings people into connection. Being in nature brings people into connection. I was glad to see that is in the thinking of GrowSmart Maine. But I also found in this work, in our work, I noted Project UnLonely is part of the Foundation for Art and Healing. You might think, well, what's the relationship between art and healing? And the reason I got interested in loneliness was we were doing work. I started Foundation for Art and Healing after 9/11, when it became very clear for traumatized kids that creative activity was helping them get over the acute trauma response of 9/11. Simple things, drawing what's on your mind and having conversations, reduced their social anxiety, their personal anxiety dramatically. And so I thought, I wonder what's going on. And what got my attention is it was having that positive benefit across race and class. So kids of all kinds of backgrounds were getting better. I said, something must be going on in the brain when you're trying to do active creative expression and make things and talk about it and have conversations. So I thought, this is really interesting. I went to my Harvard colleagues. They said, well, that's great, but we don't really see an evidence base. And I thought, well, I think there's something here. I don't want to abandon it. So I uttered what I think are some of the most ignorant words of my life. I'll share them with you. Why don't I start a nonprofit? How hard could that be? And so we have been exploring creative expression. Halfway through our work, we've been at it 20 years, we started getting strong signals from people, particularly when they were so we started focusing on using the arts for stress, not for loneliness. But as we were doing these projects for stress, people told us they felt less lonely and more connected. We weren't looking for that finding, which is fascinating. So we began to dig in, like, what is it about the arts that connect us? And then we started, wow, the arts have been around for a long time. This cave painting's 20,000 years old. There was a lot of environmental pressure 20,000 years ago. The fact that people made time to put their handprints on the wall meant it had to be doing something. And I think it has to do with a kind of human tendency to want to leave a mark, tell a story, share something with others. And Rebecca mentioned that wonderful group dinner last night, a commonality of shared food, shared stories. And the arts are a form of storytelling. And I think that storytelling is what helps us connect and thrive. So the arts offer a very unique way to do four things. First is they engage our attention. Right? When you're doing art or really listening to compelling music, you're not thinking about the 100 emails that you have to respond to. You're fully in that moment. That's increasingly rare in the modern world. Then the arts can inspire you. They can take you to a higher level of interest, engagement, and motivation to do something important in the world. And then it can empower you to actually believe you can get that done. And so maybe you're having some of that experience now in all the great work that GrowSmart Maine is doing. There's one thing to have the intellectual view. It's another thing to imagine you can make it happen. And I think the arts are very powerful about that. We're going to come back to that. That's where your sticky notes come in. And then they connect us. So behind all of this is growing brain research on what the arts do on the brain. First of all, they reduce that levels of that stress hormone, cortisol, and they increase the feel-good hormones of serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. So at the very start, engaging with the arts relax you and put you in a good mood. And that's not a bad place to start if you're going to connect. But they do other things too. But most powerfully, I think, is this ability of the arts to invite us to find, shape, and share our personal stories with an artifact, right? A made thing, whether it's a poem, a doodle, a dance move, a casserole, knitting, crocheting, quilting, which is kind of a story form for many people, or even gardening, which a friend of mine calls the world's slowest performance art form. And maybe most importantly, what the arts do is they invite us to think outside of our own personal concerns, the bigger story of humanity. And depending on your background, maybe that's a spiritual sense, a religious sense of the universe, and, why are we here? But it turns out that's a type of loneliness too, when you actually don't feel that you connect to the bigger world. Like, what was here before I got here? What will be here after I depart? Does my life have meaning, purpose, consequence? So the arts invite us to live in that space. And that's particularly important if you're taking on something big, like redesigning a community or redesigning optimism back into our society. And I frankly don't think we can do without art. So I kind of sum it up in the book. Your habits of personal creative expression are just as important to you, to your health and well-being, as your diet, exercise, and sleep. Art is a medicine that requires no prescription and also no copay. I didn't put that in the book. So here's where we're going to shift gears. Okay, you're wondering, sticky notes. We're going to make some art together. And we're going to write haikus. Can I see the hands of people who have written a haiku? Oh man, this is an advanced audience. Okay, almost all of you. But still a little bit of a quiz for those who aren't quite sure. What is a haiku? The name of the hottest Asian fusion restaurant in Portland. A short poetic form developed by the Japanese with 3 lines, the first line having 5 syllables, the second 7 syllables, and the last 5 syllables. A really great way to impress your friends and appear cultured and sophisticated without having to do too much work. The way we are going to include you in my talk, all of the above except for A. Which is it? E, yes, I'm telling you, what a class. All right, so teach by example. Here's my haiku for the day. We're passing out again the paper here, and you will need a writing utensil unless you have an incredibly good memory. By the way, we are going to collect these these haikus that we're going to write. So feel free to have all kinds of efforts on your sticky note, but we're going to share them. So here's my haiku that I'm going to share with you. GrowSmart Maine Summit. How arts make us unlonely. Will they laugh at me? See, no one laughed. That's good. Thank you. Okay, so this is the assignment. And just take a little time, have a good time with this. First, a reminder, it's that 13th century art form, 3 lines. They don't have to rhyme, although you can write a rhyming haiku. The first line has 5 syllables, the second 7, the last 5. But all creative work starts with being curious about something. In arts making, sometimes this is called a prompt, but it's still, imagine something. So I'm going to invite all of you to imagine a time when across Maine, people are truly connected, with no one excluded or left behind. So just imagine that. That's not the haiku, that's your imagination. So imagine that, and then in your haiku, please describe using the power of words and that structural form, Maine unlonely. It's my metaphor, you don't need to use that. Or how it would feel to build it, or how it would feel to live there. So it's a 2-step process. First, you imagine a connected Maine, and then what you express in your haiku is how it would feel to have that exist or to build it or to live there. And I'll give you just 2 or 3 minutes. This is a fast art form. If you need to count on your fingers, that's good. I do all the time. It turns out that the constraint of 3 lines and 5 or 7 syllables, depending on the line, that's part of the work, right? You come up with a word, it doesn't quite fit, too long, too short, and you need to go back and create another word. So 2 minutes. So remember, let it come out of your imagination what those words are and then onto the page. You might be surprised with what comes out. And there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong haiku. There's just your haiku, just like there's just your story. Okay, about 30 seconds left. I see a lot of people still counting on their fingers. There are a lot of creative ways you folks are counting on your fingers. I want to just acknowledge and commend you on that. Ten seconds to wrap it up. Okay, so you've written a haiku. So now comes the other fun part of connecting through creative work, which is to share your creative work with somebody else. So here's kind of the fun part. It's a little awkward in this seating, but turn to someone you're sitting near. Even better if it's not someone you came with. So Margaret and Carl, you're going to have to split up over there. But there's a really remarkable couple just behind you. I'm sure they want to talk to you about your haiku. And what I want you to do, we're going to have 2 minutes for this. So just find someone to connect with, and if it's 3 people, that's fine too. Read your haiku to each other and just share a little bit about what you were trying to express. So we're going to give you 2 or 3 minutes for that. So pair up, find somebody, and if you need to find someone and can't, raise your hand. how dark it is. Okay, begin the process of tearing yourself away from your new best friend. We're going to wrap it up over the next 30 seconds here. Okay, let's come back as a group. So I hope you enjoyed that experience of sharing. I love that sound. I'd love to record it and have that always available on my phone, of people connecting with that exciting sound. And so now I'd like maybe some brave person to tolerate the discomfort of disclosure raise their hand. We have a microphone coming around. I would love to hear any of the haikus that someone would like to share. Can you raise your hand if someone would like to read their haiku? Nancy, on the haiku microphone. I think there's some people over. There we go. I think Rebecca's got that group. Anybody else? We can get the second microphone in place. Okay, and just your name and your haiku.
Okay, is it on? Yes. My name is Tom Rump, and my haiku is entitled it's called Town Meeting. Local town meeting. No put-downs, fights, or yelling. Community bliss.
Yes, okay. Everyone who reads their haiku gets a round of applause.
Awesome, Tom.
Okay, who's next? Yes, please. Name and then your haiku.
Daniel Sipe. Is my mic on? I can talk loud.
You can.
In September, Maine. Huh? Okay. So mine is Common Ground. In late September, Maine communities gathered to celebrate rural organic living.
Yes, thank you. Rural organic living. Okay. Name and your haiku, please.
My name's Tanya, and my haiku is Bean Supper. Introduce ourselves, sitting at long tables, eating bland baked beans.
A culinary haiku, I love it. Okay, who's next? Yes, sir.
My name's Scott Vlon, and my haiku is called Cold Beer. Shoulder to shoulder, we build our space together. Cold beer at day's end.
Beautiful, thank you. We have time for one or two more. Yes, please.
Is this on? Yes.
Yes.
My name's Judy. The title is Change. Hey. Growth Management Law. Make it work everywhere. A size for all towns.
Beautiful. Very optimistic. Wonderful. Okay, one more haiku. Yes. Name
It starts
first.
early. Oh, my name is Robin. I'm from the city of Bangor. No child left behind means they truly matter. Grow up in caring.
Thank you, Robin. Wait, don't give that back yet. You're the lucky winner. No, I don't think this will hurt. We'll see. How was it for you to actually write that experience and sharing? If you can just share that, I'd like to hear from a few people about what it was like now that we've heard such beautiful haikus. Go ahead.
Well, I had to really dissect some of the words to figure out where the syllables lie.
Yeah.
So just trying to figure out how to, you're almost motivated to try to make it like a sentence that flows through all three lines. So
So that struggle is part of the creative process, actually. Like, how do I make this work? These lines, this sentence. Great, thanks for sharing that. Somebody else share the experience? Maybe the experience of connecting with someone and sharing your haiku. How'd that feel? And hearing about theirs? I think they're to your right, other right, Nancy.
Your other right. Thanks. I just think as adults, we don't get much chance to share our poetry or our stories. And even just for that blissful minute, it was really, really fun. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. And kids don't have to be prompted to do this kind of stuff. Somewhere along the line, judgment sits in, nervousness and so on. But I think if we can tap into that, a certain kind of magic happens. Time for one more comment? Yes, I think. just give us a second to get you the microphone.
While I have the mic, I'm just going to say, as you're heading to lunch, hang on to these. They're going to be sticky boards, that's not the right word, on the way to lunch, and we'd love to have you post these so everyone can see them.
Right, in the passageway between the Opera House and the Arts Center, that passageway, there are these beautiful windows, and we put paper there on the windows so that you can put your haiku there for us all to enjoy it. Yes, sir.
Yes, just building on the last two comments, like the internal tension and trying to make it fit.
Yeah.
Kind of had me sort of let go of pre-ideas, about how it should sound, and then just kind of came out. So it's sort of like, going with the flow of it, and it came out, Maine, a magic place. People come to remember and tell a story.
Beautiful. Wow, that's a Maine story haiku. What a great one to end this exercise on. Thanks so much. Okay, so just a couple slides. We're going to wrap up here. How can we all be less lonely? So I think it's by doing some of the things we've done. And like we're doing here today, we're talking about loneliness and asking ourselves the question, why aren't people saying it out loud? At the community event I was at last night, I was just thrilled that someone came to that event, heard about it on Facebook, and we were asking people why they were there, and she was able to say, I'm here because I'm really lonely. I thought this was fantastic. Not that she was lonely. I thought it was fantastic. She felt comfortable saying and acting on it. And I think we're getting much closer to that world. I think it's important to encourage personal storytelling of all sorts, whether it's haikus or casseroles, through creative expression or any other way, and to promote a non-judgmental culture of connection. So as we do take the risk of disclosing ourselves, that we feel safe doing it. So my book is titled Project UnLonely. That is the name of our initiative at the foundation. And the goal is to increase awareness of loneliness, reduce stigma, and put arts-based programming into the community. We partner with community organizations to reach three audiences: older adults, working populations, and young adults. Partnering in Maine, we've done programs at Colby, at UNE. We're expanding that. At the base of all of this, when you think about designing your own personal Project UnLonely or working together as a group like GrowSmart Maine, this is the call to action in the book. And you all went through that in this exercise. Be curious, make things, have conversation. So thank you all for your attention on this. I think we're going to hold questions till the end. And Jane, podium's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Could I have the clicker? Yes. How are you all feeling? Good? Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm here to talk about how we can turn Maine cities and towns from good places to great places. Specifically, does the design of our cities and towns increase loneliness? Over 30 years ago, the State Planning Office took a look at a neighborhood street in Camden that was deemed to be a close-knit neighborhood. It was known as the family neighborhood. And even though it was one block from Route 1, busy Route 1, it had a great reputation as being a people-friendly street. Measurements were taken of the lot width, the distance between buildings, and other dimensions of the hood, as we called it. I lived there. They discovered that the overall ratio of the width of the street room, the public room, to the building height was 3.5 to 1. They mapped out several activities that occurred in each part of the public, semi-public, semi-private, and private realms. This people-friendly street had some clear dimensions that made it that way. 25 feet of pavement, 24 to 50 foot right-of-way, and gabled ends of the houses facing outward. This people-friendly street was compared to others in Camden. Again, 25 feet of pavement, a 50-foot right-of-way, and the ratio of the building height to the street distance across the street, 3 to 1. And voila. Oh, and the gabled ends of the houses facing outward and houses built to a build-to line rather than a setback line. Voila, we created a successful neighborhood many, many years ago. It was a people-friendly street. This Halloween street, as it became known as, had over 1,400 trick-or-treaters each year, coming in from area communities, not counting the parents. It was also the neighborhood that hosts soup group in the winter months, street parties, and neighborhood potluck dinners all year round. This work became the foundation for the Guide to Livable Design, the Great American Neighborhood, and the lessons there are relevant today as we discuss loneliness. People want to and need to socialize. In Camden, there was a pilot project or demonstration project to create curb bump outs. That's where the sidewalk bumps out to reduce the distance that people have to cross the street. White plastic chains and bumps were placed in the street, simulating a bump out. It looked like this. And this was in front of a very busy intersection on Route 1 in downtown Camden. The Camden National Bank was on that corner, the post office, the grocery store, the town office, the village green, all of that was happening in this place. Planters and benches were placed, giving people driving vehicles a clear understanding that this was to become a different place. These were sometimes ridiculed and mocked as dangerous, and the people in Camden didn't care for the white plastic, which was not in keeping with the character of Camden. I think that was the biggest criticism. But lo and behold, the teenagers arrived. The pretty girls arrived, and the visitors, and the tourists, and the seniors. And I stood across the street watching this happen over a few minutes. And more people sat there in the street in this temporary curb bump out. And today, there is a permanent bump out with a tree that's growing and a bench to allow this to happen and allow people to connect. So how do we create healthy, active places? I love these pictures. That's my granddaughter, got caught in the water. There are many people that are talking about creating healthier places. Many of these are our colleagues. Some of them talk about going from livable to lovable cities. Some talk about people places. Fred Kent, who was formerly with the Project for Public Spaces, and he now is the founder of the Social Life Project. Some talk about healthy spaces. My friend and colleague Jeff Siegler talks about revitalize or die, and your city is sick. We're all concerned about the health of our communities and the health of the people who live, work, and play and visit here. This is all about creating places for people to socialize, to bring people together for economic health, political health, social health, and personal health and well-being. Heck, even my insurance company gives out a $10 reward for connecting with people. And I went to a Rotary chowder challenge in order to earn my $10. Wasn't all bad. So what if we look at our cities and towns as we look at our homes? Some people would say that this home has curb appeal. What do homes have? What if we looked at our cities and towns as our homes? A home has to have curb appeal, so must our town. Doorways and gateways must be welcoming. The front porch must be comfortable. The living room must be cozy. You offer food and beverages and desserts. You make it a safe place to get around. There are places to be quiet and places that are loud. We offer transportation to our family and friends and neighbors and visitors, and places to sleep and places to be active, places for all ages. So let's take a look at cities and towns in Maine with this lens. And I warn you, I'm going to go fast. Strap in. Here we go. So this is Bangor. Sorry, this is Augusta. I would say Augusta has curb appeal. This woman in the picture is trying to figure out what the heck am I taking a picture of? And she is part of the curb appeal. Augusta has here are a few more. Augusta has artistic creative sturgeons placed downtown now. And I believe someone put great thought into the placement of these, because every picture I took has a building behind it that is in the same color scheme as that sturgeon. I couldn't help but notice that. Some amazing art. And this guy is comparing the fish he caught to this one. Camden has curb appeal, even in winter. Bangor has curb appeal. What about doorways and gateways? The doorway to our town is the gateway or entrance. It's the first impression. Hallowell has an attractive gateway if you arrive by water. Greenville has a waterfront park that's a gateway of sorts. Fairfield does a great job with a park, a sign, picnic tables, and a food truck. Wiscasset is the prettiest village in Maine, they say, although most of us might think of this. That's Red's Eats. Dexter has a sign in a field designating it as the heart of Maine. It's also home of the Red Hot Dog Festival. Monson is a pretty little town where a lot of attention, time, and money have been spent. Their gateway could use a little work, but everyone knows it as a stop on the Appalachian Trail. What if our towns were comfortable and cozy as we want our homes to be? Even for babies. Brunswick does a good job making people comfortable and cozy. Not too sure about this seating outside a pub in Augusta. Cozy, maybe. Camden is comfortable and cozy in many people's views. Hallowell has comfortable chairs along the river and even experimented with pocket parks during parking day to give people more public places to gather. Monson is cozy at the general store. Bangor does a very good job downtown with seating and public spaces and restaurants. Skowhegan has worked hard to make places comfortable and cozy. And Fairfield has some public seating. What about food and beverages and desserts? Gorham has joined the food truck movement. Notice how people have assembled their chairs to be in groups, to have conversations, and to connect with each other. In Rockland and in many Maine towns, the pandemic opened up new outdoor dining opportunities. People wanted to and needed to socialize. Waterville does a good job with outdoor dining and gathering spots. And of course, our restaurants and bars and brew houses are great gathering spaces. We care about safety in our homes. How about in our cities and towns? Augusta works hard with downtown crosswalks. Belfast has added innovative colors and art to their crosswalks. Camden tells people how to behave, especially because there's no pedestrian signals, but it works. How about transportation options? We usually have an option in our town. How about in our homes? What about in our towns? Portland offers a few different choices. Can we make our options even more appealing? Many of our towns offer convenient bicycle racks for all sizes of bikes. Notice these, even motorized bikes. How about if we added bike racks as art? What about things to do? Our homes provide things to do. What about our towns? Augusta has riverfront seating. Bangor's signs often make it very clear about what is in that building. Bangor has an attractive riverfront esplanade. I don't see much seating there yet, but the thought is there. How about things to do? This is outdoor concerts in Bath on the waterfront. Summer movie nights, again in Bath. Bucksport has a story walk along the waterfront. Journalists Jim and Deb Fallows wrote about the river walk in Bucksport and what they call the river walk theory of life, meaning that even if you don't have a river and you don't have a river walk, a town needs to find the river walk in their community. the place that people want to be, the place you're proud of, the place you can promote and bring people together. Bath illuminates their library path in winter. Ellsworth has a giant sticky note reminding them to do a wall mural and then doing it. Gardner's boardwalk along the river is pretty special, and they have outdoor seating in front of businesses, as well as attractive public parks and gathering spaces. In Gorham, the volunteers painted the gazebo, another place for connection and volunteering, and it's an attractive focal point in their park. Gardner and many towns in Maine have museum in the streets and public art prominently displayed. More things to do. How about public skating in Gorham in winter? And other towns with outdoor festivals and outdoor skating rinks. It's not limited just to summer months. Kayaking on the river and going to the beach in Gorham. A little bit of public seating in Searsport. Outdoor gathering spots in Skowhegan. Historic signage and museum in the streets in Waterville. Public art, again, in Waterville. Even the trash cans are attractive in Waterville. In many of our towns, the Grange Hall was the gathering spot, the place to connect, to be part of the larger community in Maine. And many of these are fading away. But even in our rural towns, we can create gatherings and places to socialize and connect. In Chelsea, the Grange is still an active gathering spot. Not always heated, but it's a gathering spot. And community members meet at the Togus VA hospital to walk several evenings a week. Walking clubs are a great way to stay healthy and connected. So it's not just the physical attributes, but the programming we offer in our communities. Boy, do Mainers know how to do events and festivals. The Damascotta Pumpkin Festival, just recently held. And Swine and Stein in downtown Gardner with a beard contest. And of course, beer and entertainment. Christmas by the Sea in Camden, and Santa Arrives by Lobster Boat, of course. The Red Hot Dog Festival in Dexter, raising money for local events and activities and charities. Lewis and Auburn's Great Falls Balloon Festival. The Machias Blueberry Festival, although I think these are grapes, but the Yarmouth Clam Festival, the Maine Lobster Festival in Rockland, the Freiburg Fair and many other county fairs, the Sunday River Fall Festival, I think that's Carry Your Partner contest, Unity Common Ground Fair. Maine does festivals and events very, very well, but why are some of us still lonely? How do we make our cities and towns better places all year round, and why are some of us still lonely? Here's a photomorph done by Dan Burden of showing how we can make our streets better places for people. So what makes a great place? The Project for Public Spaces has been talking about this for many years. Fred Kent said, it takes a place to create a community and a community to create a place.